Hello, I am Brian Downs, and this is a Republic if you can keep it. It is March 29th, 2026, and this is an update on the dumbest war. It's been about 30 days since the Trump administration plunged itself and the world into a whirlwind of trouble from which it has no exit or plan, which is the large-scale military operations in Iran. So, to review, the administration had no clear goal, no clear timetable. They seemed to believe that they could conduct extensive airstrikes against many military targets in Iran, against the leadership there that killed the Ayatollah, of course. And then suddenly Iran would magically be transformed into a nation that was friendly to the United States and the Western powers in general. They overlooked a few things. Number one, it's never actually worked in the history of air warfare wherein an extensive air campaign caused a nation to capitulate, not without significant ground forces. It would be extraordinarily unlikely for that to work in the Muslim world, especially in a theocracy like Iran, wherein people have been trained from birth to think of the Western powers, and especially the United States, as the great Satan and their immortal enemy. They overlooked one of the basic rules of military operations, or the basic blunders really, which is the idea that this should be quick and easy. It was the prevailing attitude in the Confederacy right before the shots were fired at Fort Sumter that this ought to be quick and easy. Many people across Europe thought it was going to be quick and easy to win World War I. We can go on and on and on. The Peloponnesian War, I'm sure the various misadventures of the Romans. If you think that a large-scale military operation designed to subjugate a nation will be quick and easy, probably wrong. But Donald Trump is an idiot with dementia, and he handpicked Pete Hegseth, a man who was laughably unqualified to be Secretary of Defense from the first minute, and here we are. So, we are 30 days in. The Houthis are getting in on the game. They're firing some missiles at things, Israel and so on. The Iranian government does not seem to be in any mood to negotiate or capitulate or stop shooting. Of course, the Ayatollah was killed in the first opening strikes, and now the Iranian regime has chosen his son, a man regarded even in Iran as a religious hardliner, noted for his inflexibility. He is now the head of state in Iran, and he shows no willingness to negotiate or compromise. And why should he, when the Iranians are in fact doing pretty well? Obviously, they've suffered heavy losses of material and manpower, many hundreds or thousands dead. But so what? Again, the Trump administration, in its startling incompetence, didn't stop to think that you can destroy any number of Iranian military assets, and if Iran simply says, yeah, we don't surrender, what do you do next? Well, of course, what you do next is you threaten to target civilians. And so Donald Trump, a man with a long history of stupidity, criminality, outrageousness, basically, and the belief that he alone can fix it. He is the smartest person on planet Earth, and whatever he happens to imagine at the moment is, of course, the best solution to a complex, difficult, and long-standing problem. People who think this way are always wrong. Donald Trump decided that what he would do is start threatening to bomb Iran's power infrastructure. Now, this, of course, is a war crime. To target civilian infrastructure in this deliberate way is a war crime, flat-out war crime. Not a matter for debate, not a matter for learned scholars to stroke their beards and say, well, not a matter of the confusion of the fog of war. No. Was this a war crime or was this an accident? No, what Donald Trump is proposing is a sustained campaign of attack against civilian power infrastructure. A sustained campaign of war crimes. Again, such a campaign has never forced the capitulation of a national power before, to my knowledge. Not in World War II, ever. Involvement with ground troops is necessary, and the United States military is mobilizing many thousands of ground troops, at the very least, to try to open the Strait of Hormuz, which, as I've mentioned in a previous video, any child with a map would have been able to tell you was going to be a significant point of contention. This was understood by all military planners and global strategists who occupied positions in previous presidential administrations that could possibly be described as something like capable. It was not understood in the Trump administration. And so this strait, which carries a very significant percentage of the world's oil and other trade goods, is now under the control of the Iranians, who can zap whatever floats through there with drones and missiles and so forth. It is difficult to make them stop doing that with air power alone, and so the United States is mobilizing ground troops in what is classically called an escalation trap. Apparently now, people in the White House seem to think that large amounts of ground troops will straighten this out. Now, it might indeed, yes, reopen the Strait of Hormuz. But then what? How long do you have to keep those troops stationed in Iranian territory in order to keep that strait open? Of course, Trump blundered into this military misadventure without any attempt to gather support from any international partner, from NATO, from anyone else, and then in his inimitable way turned around to our allies and said, hey, gee, could you guys maybe send military and naval assets to the Strait of Hormuz now that I've fucked this up in a way previously unimaginable? And it turns out that our allies said, no, it's your mess, you clean it up. Well, this is not to be found surprising by anyone. Obviously, these people are the leaders of democracies. Trump's actions in Iran are catastrophically unpopular with American voters. The Iranian military action is about as popular with American voters now, 1 month in, as the Vietnam conflict was a decade in. And so our allies know it's not popular with Americans, it's not popular with my constituents in the United Kingdom and France and wherever you like. Also, Donald Trump's going to get plowed under in the midterms and then be at best a lame duck and probably in prison after he gets impeached. So no, I'm not holding hands with this idiot. So that's where we are. Startling incompetence, fantastic malfeasance, sheer, trying to think of an adjective to apply to the word hubris. We'll have to just settle for hubris. Sheer here we are, ridiculous hubris has led us into this situation, which never had a very clear goal, and that goal gets muddier every day. Now it's reported in the media that various national leaders in the Middle East and globally are trying to get together to negotiate some kind of solution. Hopefully a solution can be found before the world economy absolutely grinds to a halt on who knows what dollar per gallon gasoline price we might rocket into as this conflagration blazes forward. This alone, again, there's a long list of this alone when it comes to President Donald J. Trump. This alone is grounds for impeachment. If this isn't high crimes and misdemeanors, this disastrous and bloody-handed incompetence, I don't know what is.